Okay. I'm officially unmuted. Okay. So let's bring the Lakeshore Hospital Authority Board of Trustees meeting to order. It's January 30th. Let's see. We need to adopt the agenda.
Make a motion to adopt the agenda.
Second.
Motion in a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, let's have it adopted. Agenda is adopted. Let's go to some, we've got 3 public comments, so we'll see those now. Start with you, Miss Lindley.
I'd like to hold mine back till I've heard what they have to say, since I don't know what they're gonna say.
Okay, you wanna wait till after the presentation? That we're gonna
Yes,
say?
and where is Mr. Bullard?
Mr. Bullard is ill. He will not be in attendance.
Is he zooming?
I do not know, but he was very ill earlier.
Question asked, question answered.
Mr. Warren?
I'm a problem, Ms. Lemon, she seems to be a lead.
Okay, and then Mr. Atkinson, did you?
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I too have no idea what the presentations are going to contain, so I don't have any recommendations specifically about what's going to be presented. I'd like to, again, urge you to look back at your own mission, long-term goals and vision as you make decisions tonight and in the future. Your mission statement posted on your website says, mission statement of the authority is to provide quality healthcare services for all Columbia County residents with a special emphasis on the underserved through Shands Lakeshore Regional Medical Center and partnering clinics. And a long-term goal specified is to meet the medical needs of indigent residents throughout the county. I would urge you to keep those goals and objectives in your mind as you make decisions tonight, and would even suggest that as you make a motion, could the motion contain a statement as to how this action would benefit and serve your long-term goals of meeting the medical needs of the residents of the county. Back in July of 23, the county health needs assessment was addressed again, and that plan, I mentioned that one to you before, I think is current and is updated. And just to point out a few strategic priority issues that were identified in July of 23. Chronic disease, prevention and management of chronic conditions, including hypertension, prediabetes, diabetes, and heart disease. Obesity is listed as a specific chronic disease that needs attention in the county. Streamlined referrals to increase access that people need to get to the treatment facilities. And key considerations that listed were to enhance or create initiatives to more effectively manage chronic diseases, enhance or create initiatives to address obesity, create initiatives to increase the availability of primary care. And while we've had to be concentrating on facilities, buildings, and order clauses and so forth, we still have the mission and goal of addressing primary care needs of residents of the county. So I would encourage you to kind of go back to the basics and consider those recommendations, or not recommendations, but goals and positions from your own plan. Good luck.
Thank you, Mr. Atkinson. And, okay, so that's public comments, and now we're on to, now, you didn't want to go after that, you want to wait until the presentation. I just want to make sure I'm clear. Okay,
That's correct, Arnie.
so we'll move on to new business. We have a presentation from the Third Judicial Circuit.
Thank you very much for having us here tonight. I'm David Kraus. I'm the county manager of Columbia County. We work very closely with the Third Judicial District. Court administration is a very important function that we feel we need to do things to improve. We provide facilities, we help them very much, and we're supportive of them. Where we're at today is court administration is located all the way on the other side of town, nowhere near the courthouse. We were asking and requesting use of one of your buildings, the two-story white building that's currently vacant, so that we could move court administration closer to where the court is, improve efficiency, effectiveness, and also to save money for the taxpayers. And it's a vacant building right now and has been unused, and we feel that we can provide much better services to the public and to the courts.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Board. I'm Melissa Olin. I am your Chief Judge here in the Third Judicial Circuit. I will mimic everything Mr. Powell said. I think he hit the majority of my talking points, so thank you so much for that. Our lease does renew this year, July 1, and to be quite frank with you, court administration has been growing, and we have now grown out of our lease, as well as the fact that we are all the way across town. It's difficult to supervise staff. We have staff that we've literally placed into storage rooms. It would be so much nicer to be closer to the courthouse, closer to court operations, so we could better manage all of the goings on. We have looked at many county buildings.
Yes.
The county has approached us multiple times about relocating. And we've gotten together and we've looked at all of the potential available space in the courthouse, over at the annex. And I'm not saying it's not possible to place staff in every nook and cranny, but it's unreasonable to believe that we can do that. Because in order to do that, we would have to take every bit of space from the state attorney's office and the public defender's office. That would prevent their ability to grow. Furthermore, that creates other issues, confidentiality. It's unreasonable to believe that the state attorney's office, the public defender's office, and court administration can all be that close together and function appropriately. So we do know about the availability of this idle building. The building is idle and has been for quite some time. It's a perfect location for us, and we're going to ask that you consider at least exploring the option of allowing us to move into that building. Do you have any questions for me?
Where is the current court admin? I apologize, but I don't know where your current building is.
Okay. Our current building is the building behind the Main First Federal Bank out on West 90.
Oh, my.
Exactly.
That's out in your neck of the woods. Yeah, okay.
And although it's what, 5 miles or something, it takes us, I don't know, I would guess, sometimes 15,
Yeah,
even
10 or 15 minutes for sure.
even more
No,
to get to those office spaces. And like I said, we've placed some of our staff working from home because we are out of space. We've utilized all of the space that we were provided out there.
your current landlord, you say your lease ends or does your lease end July 1st or must you renew it by July 1st?
We must, it ends June 30th.
Ends June 30th. Okay.
Yes.
If you were to renew it, would it be could you do for like a single year, or would it be for another 3-year term?
Mr. Heidovitz, if you would please step up and you have that answer.
Good evening, Chuck Heidowitz, trial court administrator. The bank offered us a 3-year lease with an option to renew. We could make that probably whatever we want, but the current lease was a 5-year lease, and so I opted just to ask them to give it to us in a 3-year term, just to start things off. In case something else happened down the road, we wouldn't be locked in. But it's important to note that that rent increases 3% every year.
In terms of the, where the space is versus where it needs to be for you to take it over. Have you guys been inside to look with Dale or anything like that?
It works perfectly for us.
Okay,
We have.
okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may,
Yes, sir.
Judge, Your Honor, and I apologize, your last name,
Chuck Heidowitz.
Heidelman?
Heidowitz.
Oh, okay. Wow, easy for you to say. How many FTE, this full-time positions does court admin have now?
We have 32.
How many?
32.
32 for the whole Third Circuit? And all of those are housed currently, how many are housed at the First Federal Building?
I think I have 19.
19?
Yes, sir.
That means you've got 13 here at the courthouse
I've got and remote.
Or working from home.
and remote. And what you're trying to do is to get all 32 of those FTEs under one roof to be properly supervised?
That is correct.
Okay,
Additionally, Mr. Kennedy, it's our understanding, of course, nothing's set in stone. But the legislature is in session and we may receive 2 additional FTEs.
so that would put you up for beginning for the fiscal year July 1 to 34 employees.
That's correct.
Okay, and all of these employees again are housed here in Columbia County. None of the other 6 counties of the Third Circuit house any of those employees?
We have one mediator that she's working with.
She's remote, but we do have one technology staff person who is assigned to the Suwannee County Courthouse.
And I think you have 2 admin judges or what are they?
We have a traffic court hearing officer.
Okay,
We have a general magistrate.
I got you.
And we have a child support hearing officer.
Are they considered part of that 34 employees too?
They
So
are.
they would have office space at the building there.
They,
The traffic hearing officer is a contractual employee.
Okay. And I assume. Again, you've looked at the building and it's that 2-story, you would occupy both floors of the building over there to occupy the 32 FTEs?
yes,
You would need the whole building then.
yes, sir.
Mr. Williams, what's that square footage over there?
Approximately 10,000.
10,000, and you currently have at the bank building approximately,
I couldn't even give really a.
okay. But then you have some at the courthouse here. I assume that if you put everybody under one roof, that would free up how many, the 19 positions at the courthouse?
No, there's not that many.
I mean, I'm sorry.
No, but here's one of the things that we would do is we've occupied every little nook and cranny in the courthouse for our technology gear and things of that nature. So this would give us a little bit of breathing room and having some additional storage space for a lot of our equipment that we would sort of backfill. Those offices that would come out, we would backfill that and also give us our technology folks in office in both locations so they can come and go as they please.
Mr. Kennedy, the IT, where they're located, I'll explain to you because you'll know what I'm talking about. If you go in behind courtroom 1,
Yes,
when
ma'am.
you're going to enter into judges' chambers,
Yes, ma'am.
there are 2 offices, very small office, or 3 very small office spaces back there. We have a server room there with, additional air conditioners. And we have a room that's probably, I don't know, maybe a 6 by 10. That at one point we had 2 IT personnel in. And then, of course, I'm sure you've probably been in the old stenographer's office back there as well.
Okay.
That's where we have IT.
And I guess looking ahead in your crystal ball, 10 years down the road, Of course, we don't know how many more circuit court judges will be appointed. We don't know how many more county court judges would be appointed for the third circuit. But do you think that this would serve the needs of court admin going into for the next 10, 15 years?
I
That
do,
building over there?
I do.
You do?
I believe that there is room for growth.
Okay.
Additionally, and something that I failed to mention earlier, is because we have new space where we're at, we also have to pay for storage. We pay $12,000 a year to store how many boxes?
Between 60 and 80 boxes of old court files that we're not able to destroy.
And those are not stored in a county maintained building?
No,
Wow.
we have to pay private storage.
You have to understand the confidentiality of it. I just can't put them in some.
Yeah, I got you. I know what Mr. Williams, when he was Mr. Kraus, gave us a building out there at the school board building, and we utilize that for our client confidentiality folders, file folders too. So, okay. I assume that the other 6 counties contribute to your current lease, correct?
So they do. Columbia pays, I think, 36.315%
Right.
of the total. Of
And
course, you know, the counties get offsets depending on what they provide us, but their portion is a little over 36%. So they have the majority of it.
And you need an answer hopefully by 1st of May.
Now.
The sooner the better, because I mean, that's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
Because there again, we can't just shut down, we can't close port operations in order just to say, okay, we're just gonna close for a week and move. We do not have that luxury. So we would have to be very strategic with that and move in increments so we could keep up with our court responsibilities.
Thank you.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I may, one of the things that we were hoping to get the trustees to sort of advise us on tonight is whether this is something that you would even consider. I want to remind you, as it relates to the building, there are certain expenses that must be made on that building. You may recall, I know David is aware that a couple of years ago, there was a significant change in state law that affected the elevators, things of that nature. We withheld doing any of that because we wanted to see who the tenant was, or we wanted to make sure there was a tenant. If there is an interest to entertain this on the part of the trustees, I would simply ask that you allow me to get with David and Judge Olin. And then we can determine the best way and the time frame that would be necessary in order to bring that building up to the minimum required. Now, I've already told y'all the authority doesn't do full service leases. We do not do that. We don't have the staff to do that or the capability. So anything that they would be talking about would be a straight lease. I've already advised we can't do a full service. So really and truly, if there is enough interest on the part of the trustees, I think we can have this on the agenda for the 12th of next month, which is your regular meeting. If that is okay with you.
Okay.
Chair,
Yes, sir.
would there be any interest from court administration in vacant land to build a building?
So we deal with 7 different counties. And what we do is we propose a budget every year. And then those 7 counties take a percentage and cover that cost. I don't think that vacant land would be prudent for our purposes. And I say that because we're not we're not an agency, so to speak, that has certain budget for different things. It's not pay rent or build. That's not our option. We need space, but our counties actually have to consume those expenses. And it's all 7 counties. It's just Columbia has the majority of it. They pay the highest percentage.
Maybe I should ask Mr. Kraus, would there be any interest in vacant land that a building could be constructed and then leased out to court administration? And the reason I'm asking that is Mr. Atkinson, as Mr. Atkinson stated earlier, our goal and mission really is for healthcare. And I think we've still got a long way to go to achieve that goal and mission. And we've got some things in the works, but in I think about 2 weeks, we're supposed to get some property back from the city of Lake City. Where they were gonna build a city hall, and that never happened, so reverter clause will take effect. I wouldn't personally, I wouldn't be opposed to looking at doing something like that. I just don't know that we want to give up what's already set up for medical purposes. If we have plans to.
Mr.
do
Chair, if
something
I
like
may,
that in the future.
first of all, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I would like to know approximately how long you think you could utilize that building before you outgrow it.
That's a great question, actually.
I mean, I know it's a crystal ball question.
It is, and I'll put it to you this way. It would house us fine now. It would allow for growth. Goodness knows if we pack staff in like we have them now, I mean, maybe for years and years, right? But how many years has it been since we've been given 2 FTEs?
I would. Since I've been here, which is 5 years, we've had one individual, and we've had to ask the state multiple times for that position. There are a number of initiatives before the legislature this year asking for employees across the whole spectrum. So until we know 2 individuals, but specifically for court reporting, there's also technology services out there that there are the FTEs as well. So that's a growing concern for the court statewide. How many we actually get is certainly dependent upon state or the legislature funding those positions. I would say, based upon my view of that facility would hold us easily for the next decade, if not.
I mean, to answer your question, there are no funds for construction. And we could not build a building by June. So.
Well, yeah, I know it would be by June, but
Mr. Chair, if I may, could we listen to the other public comments that are requesting before we discuss this topic?
I was gonna
Thank you,
ask,
sir.
did you have any,
Yes, I did.
but by time, bear with me, Ms. Solon, I would like to bring up the public comments just in case, so we.
I think this is a great idea to have them relocate here because the potential for any type of medical facility down here is really out of question. And Mr. Atkinson mentioned the mission statement. That was something that was just made up. The purpose of the authority by the enabling legislation states to care for the persons who are deemed indigent. It was never designed, the website, to provide health care. Purpose of the authority was to provide indigent care. And I don't think that would be a good idea to have any medical facilities downtown. I think having the Women's Center turned over to court administration, it would be great. Thank you very much.
Warren, do you have any comments?
I guess some people feel that way when they don't live in the hood.
Chairman, I'm first thought and saying, Mr. Bill Williams, I got a lot of respect for you, but I'm very disappointed that you even moved this concept in the direction of even entertaining the courts. I mean, we're already dealing with what is called school prisoner pipelines. It seems like the court system is getting bigger. For what purpose and for what reason? God knows we need to be having recreation and things to make the court system smaller. And doing everything we can to prevent crime, not to grow this justice system industry. If I recall, that we've had several proposals for medical purposes for the Women's Center building. And there's one particular individual that I know personally that is tied in with the hospital down in Tampa in South Florida, who's a CEO and a pharmacist that have interest in that building. There have been some discussions and he was hoping to get before the board and do a presentation. And as far as the mission statement, I was born at Lakeshore Hospital. My son was born at Lakeshore Hospital and my grandson was born at Lakeshore Hospital, and he's Sylvester Warren the fifth. And so this community has always depended upon medical services being open here. And not to mention, Dale, that I'm proposing to bring 50 houses to this community. So where would you think that we should send them? Should we send them over to the courthouse administrators for any medical needs? Because 50 more people is gonna at least bring 4 families per household, which is gonna give equivalent to 200 people, not counting family and friends that's gonna be in and out. So you're gonna have an influx of people in and out of the community. So I think that we need to be focused more on medical, right? As it relates to this board, the city and the county to be more focused on affordable housing and recreation, right? So we can get better jobs here, housing here for companies to come. But all this extending the courthouse, I think the county, if I'm not mistaken, they built a building, about Lake City Reporter building, maybe there's room over there, and maybe the room that they're gonna create in the basement, maybe something that the courts can discuss and use, and maybe there's other buildings. I don't know what Mr. God bless the dead, Mr. Jordan, Lawyer Jordan's gonna do with his building, the office over there, whether it's for sale, whether he's gonna do anything with it. Maybe that may be an idea that can consider the lease or buy from him. But to use any of these buildings for anything other than medical purposes, not only are you doing this board a disservice, but you're doing the citizens that live in this community a disservice. And primarily, the people that live in this community, they look like me, and a lot of them are scared to come speak truth to power, but I'm not. So I'm gonna speak for them, and you know what you're doing if you don't give them what they need. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Any additional public comments on the presentation we just heard? Comments from the board?
I just would like to know if this is gonna be long-term, an open-ended lease or like a 3-year lease. You know,
Fair statement.
Bill,
I don't, go ahead, Mr. Kennedy.
I just, y'all are getting tired of listening to me. I mean, I agree with everything that Mr. Atkinson said. I agree with everything that Mr. Warren said. I agree with everything that Ms. Lemley said. I've been on this board now for 25 months. And I keep thinking, I know Mr. Powell gets tired of hearing me say this, but I keep thinking of $25,000 to $50,000 a month that the taxpayers are spending for buildings sitting there with nothing in them. And it went on for a year before I came here. And I'm tired of going down the street and people looking at me laughing. And it's stupid. And I don't think any one of us would spend that kind of our own money on any project or anything very long, especially not 36 months. And we got to do something to stop this spending. And we got to do something if it's temporary. And the courts are looking at the opportunity of using the building. And I'm sure that Mr. Kennan can word the lease up where if the county finds additional space for them, without moving the public defender's office. Thank you, because Mr. Williams, was in Mr. Krause's position. He promised the public defender that that office space could be there to like, I think it was 2035, as well as the state attorney. Of course, nobody wanted the basement of the courthouse, and we said, we'll take it. It's great. We love it because we can have our own access in and out. But anyway, I got off the target there. We've got to stop the spending. It's crazy. I agree with what Mr. Warren said. The whole complex there is healthcare. But why can't we find people? You people in the public, bring them to us. We need healthcare. But
Donnie.
Sylvester, it's my time to talk. I listened to you. I appreciate you, brother. I know exactly where you're
You
coming
mentioned
from.
my name, that's the only reason I was responding, but.
Okay.
you mentioned my name.
Thank you. But I'm talking to the board.
You mentioned my name.
I'm sorry. But we at some point have got to stop this. It's crazy. We've got plenty of money. If healthcare comes, we've got all these lots. Let's build something. And we need to have a workshop and get focused on the complete mission of this organization. If not, maybe we need to look at doing what we just did to the hospital and declare it surplus. Let's declare this 2-story women's center over here surplus property and give it to the county and let them use it. Wow. So that's my thoughts. I'm sorry.
Yeah, of course.
Have we gotten any further with any other medical interests over there at that building?
Yeah, the two that have been referenced here tonight, one, of course, you've all individually heard proposals from Miss Mayo. That one obviously is something that we vetted. We indicated that there was tremendous support. I spoke to Miss Mayo as early as today. The only thing we're waiting on is the disposition of the hospital, because we got to make sure that it doesn't affect that transaction.
What is Miss Mayo?
Erica, Miss Mayo submitted a proposal, which rather than me get into it here, I'd rather just give you the proposal, but it's a good proposal. And as early as today, we discussed the need for primary care to be a component of that. The other gentleman, that's also a good proposal. It has not been as vetted as much as Miss Mayo's proposal was. I think it's going to be a good proposal for you to consider. And truthfully, the building you're sitting in lends itself best to that, more so than the 2-story women's center.
Yep.
And we have talked about that being something we might need to consider in the future, but that'll be your decision, not mine. But we do have those two proposals. You've heard one of them yourself. The other you will hear as soon as we kind of know where we would be steering that project to.
Is there court administration, like Ms. Chancey had asked, I mean, is there a certain amount of time that you anticipate to use the building? Or are you wanting to be long-term, 10 years, 15, 3?
I can tell you that the less that we have to move, the better we are. There again, we are essential functioning, so we have no luxury to shut down and stop and move. So the act of moving is not good for us. So of course, we'd like to be there, as long as we could.
That sounds like 5 or 10 year to me. Out of curiosity, that sounds about 5 or 10, Mr. Kraus. Do you feel like that's the window that you're really looking for?
If not longer.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
because Mr. Kennedy mentioned my name.
I'm sorry.
I'm glad you did, because I love to hear you speak as you spoke. In the proposal, is there a rent component? to it?
So there could be a rent component. The first step at this point, we need to find out if the board will entertain our occupancy. And if so, then we could, move into some discussions with respect to the term and amount of money that we could
Because
afford.
it's easy to say that earning, it's kind of like earning interest on the investments that can be utilized for healthcare.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry.
I would like to suggest that we look into it further and get some basis for what we would do to rent it out.
My memory, if it serves, Ms. Mayo's proposal, does it hinge on the fate of the hospital building?
Well, you gotta remember, when we first started talking about the hospital, some of the proposers were wanting to include some of those ancillary buildings. And it was the decision of the trustees to make sure that before we did anything specifically with those buildings, we resolved the issue, because you didn't want to have somebody in them only to find out you needed it back.
And Ms. Mayo was interested in the PT building.
PT building,
Say that again, I'm sorry.
physical therapy building.
Is the one that Ms. Mayo was interested in, not the two-story
Not
women's.
the two-story women's center, okay.
But now the other proposer was specifically initially talking about the two-story building. And it would serve those purposes, but this building serves them even better.
So the bottom line is, if we rented the building out, our expenses would be cut drastically. And we still have the opportunity to provide some medical care with our other buildings. Am I
Yes.
correct? Is that a synopsis?
Yeah, in fact, what's being proposed for the PT building is a level of medical care beyond anything the authority's done before. I mean, it's pharmaceutical. It goes into the mission statement that Tim brought up, where they're going to have those, obesity treatment programs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Primary care, which we started talking about when MPALS didn't work out. There will be everything you've asked for there at this point, except for one thing, and that is ambulatory care. It's not going to be ambulatory.
Well, I think ambulatory care is the easiest to find somebody to take care of. It is the non-ambulatory
Well,
that, if that will serve our indigent patients.
yeah, and for their primary care needs, it will, Ms. Johnson. Obviously, the problem though with ambulatory care is you can find plenty of operators, plenty of people
Right.
willing to do it. The question is, how much do you want to pay them? None of them are willing to do it and take the risk and and all the assumptions of risk. They want you to underwrite it.
Yeah.
And thus far, you have indicated that's a deal breaker for anybody. So we have not entertained those, and that's one of the reasons
That we're where we are.
that we're where we are, yeah.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to say, I agree with Ms. Chancey. I'd like to explore it more and have staff discuss it with court administration and see, what square footage do they currently have, compared to the lease that they're getting ready to sign, and see, what this is. And see about, at least discuss it further at our next meeting.
I would agree with you on that. Now, we don't have to make a motion to direct staff to contact administration to explore that, right?
I don't think so.
Thank you.
Judge Olin,
Yes, sir.
our meeting is the 12th.
Well,
So by the 5th, we have to have an agenda out, and we need to have the supporting documents for that meeting just as soon as we can thereafter. Do y'all see a problem with that? David?
I don't know.
Okay, I mean, we just need to kind of have it, well, David fully understands.
I'm glad that he does.
Well, we just have requirements, and so I want to make sure we can get it on the agenda for the 12th.
I will work with Mr. Krantz.
We'll also get Mr. Foreman involved.
Sure. It might have just slowed up. No, I'm joking. I'm teasing.
It's okay, he's not watching.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Judge. Okay. I believe we've exhausted that item. On to the next item here, progress report from staff regarding the ongoing efforts to transfer ownership of Lake Shore Hospital to Meridian Behavioral Health Care.
I'll begin and then I'll let Todd finish. In your agenda packet, you will see the copy of the letter that you requested we send the Masons. We wrote the letter, we sent it. The Masons responded in kind. Their response is in the packet also. The letter basically says that they wanted to be paid for the lot. The other things that were offered, such as a swap of land and things of that nature, they were not interested in. So the question before you tonight is, what steps do you wish to take at this point? We tried to outline what your options were, and you do have a number of them in no particular order. You can obviously counter their offer if that's what you so choose. You can make the decision, because you've already declared the property surplus, to remand it back. And by the way, they did say in the letter, they did not want that to be a quitclaim deed. They wanted it to be a warranty deed. And I'll let Todd explain what those differences are. There may be some possibilities here where we retain ownership and do a lease back to Meridian. However, in discussions with Meridian, that was not something that they seemed to be very keen on. They saw that as being problematic in some ways. So, and I'm sure there are other options, but hopefully we can get some additional direction from the trustees tonight as to what you might like to do. Todd?
Yeah, as far as the deed issue, until we know kind of where we're going, I haven't researched that. I think at most we would give them a special warranty deed, if not the same type of deed they gave us when they conveyed it to us. But, you know, that's something down the road. We'll give them what we deem appropriate, and they either take it or they don't. If we got to the point where we wanted to deed back block 111 to them, and looking at aerials and stuff like that, it's going to be my recommendation before we do that we have that lot surveyed. It's going to take, for lack of a better way to put it, an historical survey, because that road, or that block 111, originally when platted or drawn, was surrounded on all four sides by streets. Many of those streets have, or portions of them have been vacated, which means each part, north or south, east or west, goes to the center line. We have no idea, for instance, where Franklin technically stopped and then got vacated. But because that block 111 is in close proximity to the front of the hospital building, before we gave it back, I would want to ensure that we would have adequate access into the hospital building if that was an issue for the future. And then to the third option, obviously we're between $25,000 and $500,000 apart. We gave no rationale to the 25,000. They gave no rationale to the 500,000. Don't know whether that was we thought yours was so low, so we're going to go so high, or whether that's a realistic number. We don't know. But probably at this point, the most feasible option if we wanted to pursue trying to resolve that issue short of tearing the hospital down, would be to make some sort of offer based on an appraised value. That lot is right now a parking lot. Obviously, if you don't have a building associated with it, it doesn't do any good to be a parking lot. So essentially it would end up being essentially a 1 acre piece of vacant property. And so I think that would be one of our last sort of options would be to say, all right, the appraised value is the appraised value. You're probably not going to get that for it, or that's the most you could get on the open market. If you could get that much because of it being almost completely surrounded by the Lakeshore campus, would limit its uses. So I think if we wanted to continue dealing with the Masons and try to resolve that issue short of the cost of demolition of the hospital building, that you might want to look at having an appraisal done and offer them that value. Something both sides can sort of hang their hat on, for a better way of saying it.
Sure.
Mr. Beal.
Got a few, I guess, comments, statements, questions, whatever, if you'll entertain that. So first, I think the reply to our letter of $500,000 was a slap in the face to the taxpayers. I mean, I'm not an appraiser by any means, but I don't think that a parking lot would be worth that. I've talked to some people in the construction business who actually just paved about an acre. Said, you know, today's cost to pave a 1 acre parking lot would be about $160,000, $170,000. If you take an acre of land, I'm just guessing here, let's say $40,000. Okay, maybe we're at 210. Again, it's landlocked by the hospital authority, and I'm not sure what the zoning is for it, but they may have difficulty getting it rezoned. So I think I would really like it if Meridian would take the parking lot as is. We can indemnify them, or we can give them a 100-year lease for $1 a year on the parking lot and we maintain it. And if the Masons want to take us to court, I think they'd have a hard time proving that a mental health hospital is not a hospital. And I think that the parking lot would continue serving its purpose as such. If Meridian's not in favor of doing that, then I think we should get a survey and appraisal, see what that is, and decide if the board is willing to pay for that, or if Meridian would be willing to kick in some of the money to pay for that. But I can tell you now, I would not be in favor of paying $500,000 to get the parking lot back. But I think we can give it to Meridian as it is, or if they'd rather us keep it and lease it to them for $1 a year for as long as they are in the building.
I was gonna speak for him, but since he's coming up, I'll let him.
Before you say anything, Don, I have one quick question. You come on up, I just have one quick question. Does the quit claim deed specifically state a municipal hospital?
Yeah,
Or does it say a hospital?
I did not pull that deed
yes, it does.
today.
Interesting.
And so the issue there would be trying to go back to 1938 and reconstruct the intent of that phrase. And that's what a judge or a court would ultimately decide.
Mr. Savoy,
Yeah,
please.
good to see you.
Good to see you.
So just to answer a couple of questions. You know, our concern with the lease back is really the letter from the Masons. I did read that in detail. And they talked about the fact that the building, the land has been identified as surplus. So they're asking for that. Meridian has no interest in getting into a fight with Masons as to the use of the property. If the Lakeshore Authority can solve those problems, And there are no issues with Masons on either block 111 or any other lots that they hold contention with. And if we can lease it back from the authority for $1, I don't see a problem with that at all. But taking over the building and then getting into a fight with Masons over 111 and others, we shared this with Mr. Cannon and Mr. Williams on Monday when we had a meeting, is real problematic for us. From a building standpoint, at paying more for the lot and buying the lot out is not something we're interested in. And I'd like to explain why I think it's important. You know, when we look to take over the hospital building, there's a lot of discussion from y'all about, is 10 million enough? Well, we've committed $10 million to the project. We've seen that and more. So, you know, the building is far from move-in ready. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. There's a lot of expense that needs to be paid. To add this on, I think is just too far. And I will remind you, Meridian's been coming here. I look back, first presentation we did in this trench of proposals goes back to March of 2022. And we also made proposals back in the first trench. That didn't gain any traction. So we've been working with you guys for 2 years. We like to get something done. We think it's time. We think our ask is fair. I did ask Dale to put the letter before you again that we sent at his request in late December. That's where we stand. But I don't have a problem with $1 release. I don't think that my board of directors would have a problem with $1 release. It's the legal challenges that are in play that really make this a difficult transaction.
Thank you. Ms. Ludley?
The time for public
I
comment.
was gonna say, I want to exhaust the public comments if I could. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Dale, do you have that map that shows all the properties from the authority?
Not in the room, no.
Can you obtain that? Bring it out? And the reason being is how many parking spots are in the lot in question? How many spots?
112 or something, doesn't it? I think that's the number.
129.
And you, Don.
139.
139, and you have a requirement for almost every one of those spaces, right?
I do, and I did look at the other lots. You all have a document that lays out how many spots are in each lot.
Yeah.
If we exclude the women's center, it's not near enough. All the other lots.
This parking lot right here, how many are in that, Daryl?
56.
This is not the physician's parking lot, the one right across the street.
56.
That's 56.
Yes.
The helicopter pad, that could accommodate parking.
Well, it is a licensed helipad. We have been asked to keep it licensed.
Okay,
Now, to my knowledge, in the past year, it was used twice. It may have been used more. But that is part of the discussions with Meridian as far as the transfer of that property goes. And I think Meridian would maintain it as a helipad.
If I may, that is true. And when we went over there, parking would be trouble in my opinion. Well, I'm not an engineer. There's a lot of wetlands over there. We just want to keep a buffer.
what Jack Berry called the illegal pharmaceutical store, where they took down the trees, that could be used for parking. Has that been explored?
I don't know where that is.
Just east of
Well-
the hospital.
Uh-huh.
Just east of the
East of the
hospital.
There were pine trees there. Jack Berry used to say there was illegal drug transactions going, and so he had the pine trees cut down and a fence erected.
Which was
And-
very true because they were documented with the police department.
No, there were no documented.
Excuse me.
reports.
They were documented.
Bring it to the next meeting. And on here, where the Bedoya building was torn down, is that on here?
No, but then again, we believe we're going to have a end user for the PT building, and we have to maintain parking for that.
Okay, and then there's the fenced parking lot over here.
That's not included. This were just paved areas.
Because that was done for overage for the hospital, so that could easily accommodate 75 or 80 cars. So I think that just totally avoiding the Masons, there is adequate parking to look into that fence. And if it was a question of employees not wanting to walk that far, maybe they could get a golf cart and there'll be security, so they could just trolley from there over to here. And I think there would be adequate, but to pay an absurd amount of $500,000 is ridiculous. Tell them to take their lot and shove it.
Thank you, Ms. Lumley. Are there any additional public comments?
Chair and board members and Mr. Williams, I had an opportunity to look at the proposal and the response back from the Masons and to say, shove it up the Masons. I mean, the Masons are people that do things throughout the community. They've helped in many ways. I don't think it's an organization that you just, use derogatory terms to express them. That's just my opinion. My uncle, different people in my family are Masons, and I've seen the work they do. So I find that a little bit offensive. I also find it a little offensive that when hearing from Mr. Brandon Bill and hearing from Mr. Cannon and not hearing from the rest of y'all, that letter did ask you guys that y'all could come down and have a conversation. I read that also in the request. And so why are y'all having a conversation with some well-organized and decent people in the community and seeing whether or not y'all can have a conversation instead of saying how we can screw them over and let them go to court, how we can screw them over and get appraised value. And then the next word that I think we're gonna hear, right, that's very offensive to any landowner that I hate to hear, you're probably gonna start talking about eminent domain, right? So why are we even getting this forward and we don't even have to? The people asking to meet with you guys, are y'all opposed? Y'all are anti-Masons? Y'all are anti-conversationists? And as a matter of fact, that lot can be pressured to $1 million. You need the lot just as well as you need the hospital. So basically, if the Masons will really want to be nasty, they got you in the crosshairs. So I really would be mindful of how you say things, how you respond to certain people and certain organizations, and some things are worth having a conversation. Some things are just worth having a conversation. And if those people are listening, and if I were the Mason, I heard some of the comments y'all made about trying to backdoor me, I'm just telling you how I am. If you thought you tried to backdoor me and you played a chess move, I'm gonna make you. Because I feel like y'all just made a chess move on them and tried to backdoor them with that language. And that is very unappreciative. And that is very unprofessional for people who are appointed by a governor to sit on this board and represent this authority and to say this type of stuff. That shouldn't even been an option tonight. The option should be either we're gonna counter or we're gonna have a conversation with them because they said nothing to that level to you guys in their response.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. Any additional public comments? All right. Dale, out of curiosity, a $500,000 number is out in the air. Can we even legally entertain that?
Not in my opinion, no, not at this point.
We'd
I
have to have
mean-
the appraisal to be able to justify the.
First of all, yeah, I mean, the state law is pretty clear as to what you have to do as a public entity in order to entertain the purchase of real property. And while we have numbers, we have nothing that supports that number.
Help me on this real quick. And this is, just bear with, this is a question for you, Mr. Kennedy. yes, we own the property, but there is a quitclaim deed on the property. So when we're purchasing this, are we purchasing the rights? Or are we purchasing the property, or is there anything that I'm missing there?
We own the property. It
Okay.
is subject to the reverter right
Okay,
that can be enforced if the reverter provisions are not continued to be.
so, okay,
So we're purchasing, to be highly technical, we're purchasing the reverter rights. That's what I was curious. We already own the land,
we own the land, we're
but,
purchasing.
but
the
if the
rights.
reverter became effective, then we don't own the land anymore by virtue of the reverter clause.
Okay,
Just like with the city.
so no
That's a
matter,
reverter clause, that the city owns it, but it's subject to our reverter clause, and if those conditions aren't met, then we have the right to retake ownership of the property.
so no matter what, that the value that's in question is the fair market value of the property.
Yes, that's the easiest way to look at it, yes, sir.
Okay.
A successful enforcement of the reverter clause means you lose the fee simple to the property.
So, I'm sorry.
Ms. Chauncey? You have any comments? None, okay. My only comments are several. When I got the letter, I too was a little astounded by the amount. But after reading it over and over and over and thinking about it and looking at it, I kind of realized that, and I agree with Mr. Beal a lot, but I looked at it and I said to myself, I guess if I was a Mason, I would have considered our offer of $25,000 a little ridiculous. So maybe let's tell them how ridiculous it was by asking for 500,000. So I started looking throughout a bunch of my notes because I do make notes, believe it or not. And I found where Mr. Tompkins approached the board, I think back in September or October. And I've asked Mrs. Markham to go back and pull that tape for me because I would like to hear it again. But I wrote down beside his name a little quote, and I hope that he actually said this, but he said that if we are not going to have a hospital there, then they would like to have fair market value. And I think we need to consider that. I think I agree with Mr. Kennan, Mr. Williams, that we need to probably get an appraisal done on the property, maybe even a survey on the property. And but at least the appraisal, so we can go and show it to the Masons. I know several Masons, they're good people. There's no bad intent on their part. But, you know, let them know that, yes, we were a little bizarre in the $25,000 offer, but realistically, and Mr. Beal, I agree. I have talked to some contractors too and gotten the price, and it's anywhere between $200,000 to $300,000 to build a lot with 149 parking spaces on it. Now, I too also looked at the other places that we have that are not doable to help Meridian. So I've run my mouth enough. I would like to make a motion, unless you've got some comments that you'd like to make.
I would like to make a comment.
Okay, I'd like to listen to your comments before I make a motion.
Okay. The only comment that I have, the Masons have invited a representative from here to go to their meeting in
Which-
February, I understand.
It's February 1st, which is Thursday, yes. it says.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anybody going?
I will be out of town.
I'd love to go if I'm welcome.
Well, they, before the meeting, apparently they give time for you to speak.
Yeah, but I don't
But
think,
you have to notify them.
yeah, I got you, but I don't think I really need to go because I know most of them, they know me, but
That doesn't speak to the entire membership.
okay. Their board doesn't make a decision.
Hmm?
The whole entire membership makes a
Yeah.
decision and not their
Yeah.
board? Okay,
That's
Well-
why they they cannot give you an answer like ASAP.
Okay, well, and I agree with you. I will do that, but they've got another meeting coming up the 2 weeks after February
Yeah.
1st, so that would be on the 15th. And I'll go then, but I'd like to have the appraisal done on the property so I can show it to them. And then I'd
Yeah.
like to get Mr. Tompkins' words again,
But I
Richard's
would, I
words.
would suggest whoever is gonna go,
If the
call
board,
them like tomorrow
I'll
and
be
let them know.
more than happy to. And Mr. Mangrove too, and if the board tells me that they want me to go, but I first would like to have an appraisal done as to what the amount would be for the lot. I think that's.
And I would ask you to consider if we're gonna have the appraisal process, we'll go ahead and do the survey. I think either way this goes, it would benefit Meridian in the long run because block 111 may not encompass all of the parking lot. There might be 40 feet. Not bad with directions that way,
North,
north that doesn't encompass it.
Okay,
And so, try to kind of do an overlay of that. And again, the vacation of the streets and all distorts it. But I think it would benefit if we ultimately get to the deal with Meridian, that they know exactly where their line of demarcation is and whether or not we need to make some, and again, if we don't work out something with the Masons, I'd like to know what my access and frontage is relative to the south of block 111.
I'll second your motion.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
before we make a motion.
motion's on the floor.
I'm not
No,
sure.
there's
that-
not.
No, he's
He
joking.
was- I was
He's
joking.
joking.
Oh,
He was joking.
Right, I was just joking.
I did not cut, yeah, that was.
I'd be interested to see what Meridian says about if this authority board spends money on buying a parking lot to make this deal happen, I would like some sort of assurances, I guess, that Meridian's gonna go forward with what's happening and it kind of reminded what the city did with the Blanche Hotel. And the one good thing that they did do was there was deadlines. And if those deadlines weren't met, then the deal fell apart. I don't want us to spend X amount of dollars on buying a parking lot that we already have ownership of, on buying the rights, the reverter rights of a parking lot that we have ownership of. And then something happened a year and a half, 2 years down the road, and nothing happens, and we've already spent $25,000 to $45,000 a month maintaining the building. So I think at that point, we would need some sort of assurances that this is gonna happen by this date, because again, one of the things in the back of my mind is this is creating how many 100 and something new jobs in Columbia County? So I would just like some sort of assurances that the project will be completed and this number of jobs comes out of it.
Fair enough.
Yes, Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I've been in one chat that there's somebody who would like to speak, but can't figure out how to link their hand. That's the one.
Yes. Hang on one second, and then I'll get to you, Mr. Bourne. Let me see if I can. We are, but we're trying to give everybody this chance here, and I missed this one online. So you say Lee?
Yeah, just do ask on you.
That work? All right, Mr. Or. the
It's Miss,
person-
it's Miss, sorry.
Okay, sorry about that. We've got you live.
Okay, you guys have heard me before. My name's Joy Stevens. Thank you for having me again. I'm sure you're probably tired of hearing me, but I just had one last thing I'd like to say and ask actually, but I just would like to know why most of the board members think that Meridian is so suitable to take over this large hospital. Considering what you've heard from the community and the mere fact that Meridian's own CEO does not even speak up for his company that he speaks so highly of. You would think he would address these accusations of abuse, maybe even apologize for the negative experiences that they had with Meridian. Why not offer to sit down and talk about what happened and how he could work to make sure his future patients and employees did not suffer the same and improve what may be lacking in his facilities? Integrity is so important. Behaving ethically and consistently demonstrating good character by being free of corruption and being held accountable. Doing the right thing when it's easiest or the most profitable isn't what matters. When things are easy, anyone can appear to have a backbone. Unprincipled people have no moral code, no integrity, and should not be trusted. Kind of like the guy who offers to help the old lady across the street but steals her purse instead. This is exactly who Meridian is, but that old lady is the people in your community. So let me ask you this. What does integrity mean to you in the hospital you represent? Because looking from the outside view, it is very clear the only real reason most of you find Meridian a suitable choice is because Meridian has a lot of money, and that's the only reason. Why would this be the ethical and right thing to do? Are you just doing what's easiest or the most profitable? In the end, whatever decision you make, I hope it is the right one, because this is a promise you made to meet the medical needs of the community. They just want the money, and Meridian has it. That's all I hear from the community. So choose wisely. This defines who you are and will define who you are as to the community. Please keep the hospital a place for people in this community to receive proper care they deserve. Please allow other medical facilities and providers to have a chance to improve the physical and mental health care needs that are so desperately needed, that are not being taken care of by Meridian if you really would look. Thank you to Ms. Chansey once again for being the only person to stand firm and have such great integrity. With all this being said, good luck, and I pray you make the right and moral decisions. Have a great night.
Thank you, Ms. Lee.
Thank you.
I lost my train of thought. We were insurances from Meridian to move forward with the project if we did entertain this, and I agree with you. I think that's apt. If we are gonna spend taxpayer funds to clear the path for them to go, I would like to know that they are intending on spending, and obviously John has shown us that you outlaid the $10 million, it's ready to go. But yeah, I think at this point, we don't know what we can spend, right? We have to get an appraisal. My only concern is you say survey and we say commercial appraisal. I hear, and it makes me cringe, but I hear 90 to 120 day window.
I don't know how long it takes, but that's what I think we need.
That's the only thing I hear. That's the problem.
I don't know that it'd take that long on the appraisal. I don't know about the survey, and I don't think the quicker we get the appraisal, the quicker we can start getting a timeline in place. By having another constructive, hopefully, meeting with the Masons.
Yeah.
They've been very generous in meeting with us when we've asked. I think that's the critical one from a time frame. I think by the end of the day, when all's said and done, that's when I think the survey would be important. That's sort of part of the final wrap up.
And I agree with you. The survey is probably fairly critical to that appraisal.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
because it should be a component of any motion. If the budget for the buildings funds was established at $278,000 and is basically fully expended like in a week. And so there is basically, the way I read the proposed agreement, there is a 3-month obligation for you to continue maintenance at the hospital. And so to not completely shut down in a week, you need a budget amendment. And you really have to think about a 4-month, approximately $50,000 a month. You're basically looking at, ideally, if you sign the agreement tomorrow, you'd have 3 months that you would have to fund. And for every month thereafter, you'd have a month that would have to be funded under the current agreement. Now, it's possible, I'll just say this, if Meridian reduced that 3 months, that would offset things, but anyway, you need a budget amendment. I would recommend it to keep from having to shut down expenditures basically immediately. Any motion should have a funding component to it.
4 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, a question for Mr. Powell. We have a budget amendment scheduled for our regular meeting. And based on when the analysis was performed, we had to make some projections. Those projections, we now have actual expenses. We believe we're good through the 12th.
Okay,
So I just wanted to make sure that you were okay with that, but we do have a proposed budget amendment for the 12th. And all we're asking for is a month at the time. You approved your budget as you did, where you could continue to have oversight throughout the year. So we're not going to propose any operational budget amendment more than 30 days. And then every meeting you can discuss it, you can talk about it. If you change your mind, you've not gone so far, you can't change. So that's the way we're proposing to do it.
Mr. Douglas,
Ms. Chance.
Mr. Warren was gonna speak when you did
Oh.
that.
I'm sorry. Sylvester, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I did.
Go for it.
Two things, if you would, Mr. Chairman and members. The first thing I wanted to ask us, Mr. Brandon Bill mentioned about how many jobs it's gonna bring up. How many jobs it's gonna bring? Are those jobs are gonna be new jobs created? Are they gonna be transferring people, or people gonna be commuting in from somewhere else? Or these are really new jobs is what I'm trying to determine. That's one. That's our first question. And if they're gonna be new jobs, where they gonna live at? Because we don't have any housing. And then number two is it true? And I've heard it, I hadn't seen it, and I haven't done a public records request. I've heard it time and time again. My mother is in my lifetime probably been to Meridian, McLean State Hospital, and Tallahatchie throughout my whole life. And I've heard of some of the behavior and some of the complaints, all those things that have been vetted, all those things true. Is that the reputation of Meridian? And do the board have a moral obligation or ethical obligation to find out whether or not these such allegations by entity that's gonna be moved into a community of low-income people and people who are gonna be needing these services, all these things true? I think that also should be a part of the discussion. I've heard it too many times. The lady that came on and said it. I hear it throughout the community. Most people that are back out of my community for the most part. And so there is, as an activist, I do hear a lot of mistreatment. If it ain't the county jail, it's Meridian. I'm just telling you. You don't get the phone calls, but I do. And so I'm not saying that those things are true. I'm just saying we need to know before we put this level of business in this community, and then we're stuck with them. And they're providing potential bad services to patients and some issues with staff. And then I still worry about the potential of Leon Street becoming some type of drug alley. Just keeping my ear to the streets, birth from the drug community. and the potential of revenue that their minds are probably thinking as well. If I was still in the streets, I would be thinking, and so those are my thoughts, and maybe I get an answer to those jobs, whether they're new, whether they're drive-ins, those are just numbers we're throwing around.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. I think we have to. Okay. You want me to take a 2-minute break?
Yeah.
So we'll do a 2-minute pause while we switch tapes. Now we're officially back on.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir, Mr. Beal.
I did have one more thought.
Yes, sir.
So, and I don't know if this is a thing you would I know you would know better than I would. Whenever we get that appraised, is there like any specific parameters to that? Because, and the reason I'm asking, if they take the lot back, then we tear the hospital down. Right? I mean, I think that's our only option. So I think if it's appraised, it should probably be appraised without the thought of there's this 4-story building that produces
I
revenue.
think what you're saying is appraise it without being connected to the hospital.
Yes,
For like a-
yes.
It's a standalone.
I mean, is that a thing?
It's
Is
all
that-
part of the assignment. I've been out of it too long. I need Chase or Chris to tell me, but they're the generals. But long story short, I think portion of that can be part of the assignment, but it's gonna come down to like a highest and best use. And you'd almost be performing 2 appraisals, I think. Remember, you're talking to a trainee, not a general. But I think that would almost be 2 separate appraisals, one with the, over the fence or across the fence value with the hospital, and another as it sits. So that could be 2 very much assignments. That's really a question for a general.
And it would be as it sits, because that's the issue, is the only thing to be conveyed would be block 111 with no other part of the hospital. So
Yeah.
it'd be a standalone.
Okay.
So I think, yeah, I mean.
Because the parking lot is probably worth more with the hospital there because it produces revenue. But if we give the land back to the Masons, then we're not gonna keep the hospital there.
Why not?
Who's gonna go in there with no parking?
There's a huge parking lot back here.
Well, I believe it's kind of been settled. There is a portion of that parking that can be utilized, but that lot is critical for their, has to do some sort of like an ACA type rating, right? There's so much adjacent parking that's required. I'm fairly certain that lot's critical to the conveyance.
And it's come down to the fact that Meridian needs that lot. They made it clear in their letter, so that's where we need to.
At the end of the day, they also say, yeah, that's part of it.
So that's my only concern is I think that the appraisal needs to be done as if the building doesn't exist.
And I'll make sure that's conveyed if the motion is made. And
Mr. Chairman, if I will, I know I'm out of Robert's rule in order, but Mr. Chairman, I will. So we're gonna, it seems like we're trying to backdoor, for lack of a better word, I'm trying to work on my decorum.
Yeah.
But for lack of a better word, are we trying to screw the Masons over?
No, I think we're trying to.
Because the building should be appraised with the parking lot.
No, I don't think we're trying to screw them over. I
Yeah,
think-
it's suggestions are being made to try to
Mr.
separate
Chair,
it so
point of
that
order,
it will be
please.
less valued.
Hang on,
Mr. Chairman, you got a
I
point of
understand
order.
what's going on. I'm not, don't
I'm-
approach me like not intelligent.
No,
enough to understand.
I don't think, I think what I hear us being conveyed is. We are trying to get an appraised value of the property simply because we can't distribute funds in excess of that value. So that's what I hear.
And that is correct.
That's what I'm hearing, is we can't, like, if you said you want $1 million, can't do it.
I'm not saying that. So what was that parking lot for?
the parking lot is for, but that's what I was telling Brandon, the parking lot is for parking for the hospital.
So
But
why-
no matter what, the person that's interested in doing the hospital must have the parking lot.
And it
So I
should
think
be
it-
appraised with it.
Well, I don't think for what it's worth, I don't think the appraisal is gonna, if Chase was here, he could probably tell me that it ain't gonna change. If I had to guess.
No, we don't know what Chase would say. Maybe Chase said it, so until we get it done, I would say that the right way to do it and be fair to the Masons
Mhm.
would be to do it in totality. What would it hurt?
Mr. Chair.
I don't think it's
Mr.
gonna
Chair.
change.
Mr.
I mean, I
Chair,
really
you got a
don't.
point of order that needs to be resolved.
I'm sorry.
So again, I will state the reason that I said this
Yeah.
is because if the option is give the parking lot back to the Masons or pay them for the parking lot. If we give them back the parking lot, they're not going to be able to use the hospital. They would own parking spots. That's it. So that appraisal does not need to include the hospital building. I know it won't include the hospital building,
Right.
but it needs to act like that hospital building's not there, because the Masons at that point, they could either charge people to park in the parking lot, or they could have events there. They could do whatever they want to do with it at that point. It's theirs, but we would tear the hospital down at that point.
Right.
So if we give it back, the appraised value needs to be without the hospital there. I feel like there would be two different appraised values. One, because it's used for this multi-story building. And then the other is if the building's not there, which it wouldn't be if we give it back to them. So that it won't be the same value,
I
because
think,
we would tear the building down because we own the building.
yeah, I think the best way to deal with that would be to direct, if we ask Dale and Todd to approach an appraiser and ask them that question, the only person that can answer that is
And that's
Agenda.
fine, but I want to make it very clear.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
not
I
trying to
don't-
snowball anybody. I'm not trying to
No.
lowball it. I'm not trying to backdoor. I'm not trying to do anything except for take care of the taxpayer funds that we're tasked with managing, and that's
I
it.
agree.
And
I
that's
agree.
it.
I agree that the appraisal must, if it is to be considered, the appraisal must answer that question. And I'm fairly certain, if I'm not mistaken, that they will answer that question as it turns to the, the future use. But I'd have to,
Quick question.
Miss Lindley, it's gonna be the last one and I'm out of it.
You've got North Florida Regional, there's the hospital, then the same distance from the hospital to their layered
Okay,
parking lot.
we're not talking about any more parking.
That's it.
I appreciate it. I'm not trying, but we gotta move this along.
Move on.
So I'm gonna close public comments if everybody's good with that.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
No, I would like to make a motion that, we go ahead and have done an appraisal on lot 111. Let's don't worry about doing a survey yet. Let's get the appraisal done first. And let's take that appraisal to the Masons and show them what the appraised value of the property is. And then we can go from there, yes or no, before we do a survey.
Mr. Chair.
Is that a motion?
That's a motion.
Okay. Yes.
Do we have comments?
Oh, yeah, please.
I won't be able to support that motion because I feel like in order to have an accurate appraisal, we have to have the survey. So I think we should do a survey and.
And the only reason why I don't want to do a survey is because we're looking at 120 days, according to what Mr. Chair said, and that's going to put us till October. So we might as well go ahead. I'm not going to mention Mr. Powell's name because I don't want to bring him into it. We might as well go ahead and allocate another $500,000 plus for the operation of the building, because we're going to be here until this time next year.
Maybe a thought, just one that I'm having.
I'd like to know what the Masons would say,
That's
period, because if we take an appraisal to them and it's $480,000, they may say, no, we want 500. Then we can know whether we can drop back and punt or go forward.
I think
That's the only reason why I want to do the appraisal without the survey. If they say yes, then we'll get their attorney, if they have one, and Mr. Kennan to draft a document stating that they accept X, Y, or Z. Then we'll go for the survey, which is going to drag on, and then we can move forward with Meridian.
I would also think too, if I'm not mistaken, that the appraiser can reassess his appraisal after receiving the survey and make any adjustments he deems necessary.
Cause right now, on paper, that is essentially a 1 acre piece of property.
Right.
And the importance down the road of the survey is depending on whether we do something with Meridian or not. So if we, I don't have a problem from my point of view, getting the appraisal started. Try to get a time frame from Mr. Moses, and then we're coming back on the 12th, we can address that issue.
He's the one I would pick.
Are you comfortable that the appraisal would be able to? If the survey says it's actually a little bit more, a little bit less,
Well, if you
a
look at
lot
the
more,
map,
a lot less.
if you look at the map and blow it up from when it was platted into those blocks, it's essentially an acre. I mean, it says 210 by 210 or 270 by 270. So it's easy to take that and determine this is the acreage. And I think it It is 1 acre more or less.
Okay,
So
I
it
thought
won't,
you
the
were saying
survey
that.
won't change it. The survey, I think, is gonna be needed more towards the end run.
I apologize.
I
I
just
thought
did-
you
I
were
just didn't
saying that we
wanna,
needed,
If you
Needed
do
the
one
survey.
concurrently to the other one, yeah, I mean, that's, again, you could take that survey to a person like Chase, like a general like Chase, and then he could reassess what during his evaluation, and as long as the survey's not,
and generally it won't change unless there's an encroachment
Yeah,
or there's,
some sort of
you know, some sort of an anomaly on there that affects the value up or down.
okay, thank you for the
But if it's
clarification.
just straight parking lot, it's gonna be straight parking.
Okay, thank you.
I really don't think you have to worry about doing this in a short period of time. But whatever you present to the Masons is it's gonna take a couple months to get it done, because they have to send letters out to everybody.
Did they
So
do
the
that?
curious thing, I was curious, can we have a representative or someone else from the board? I'm not sure who, could they approach the Masons and ask the Masons, hey, we can't give you whatever?
Well, he's gonna
Would-
go not to
Would
this
they
meeting next week.
entertain market value? Knowing that we cannot give more.
Well, the only,
No, that Todd's gonna have to do that.
well, the only comment I have on that, Ms. Chauncey, is this letter dated January 16th, 2024 by Mr. Kennan on behalf of this board, and the Masons responded back on January 22nd. How could that have been? They must have been listening to our meeting or something, but their
They do.
date of their meeting was they
They do.
did, okay. The date of their letter is January 22nd, 2024, and excuse me, Mr. Kennan's letter was dated January 26th. 6 days they responded. So are you saying that if we go to them with a proposal, it's gonna take 2 months?
Did they send out the letter to
When,
membership? for
when
that?
things are finally accepted,
Wow.
they have to get the consent of the membership.
Well, it's-
Hey, that isn't set by the individual lodge.
They have 102 members according to their website.
Uh-huh.
Well, it says that the officers and membership appointed David Mangerman and Richard Tompkins as chairman and co-chair of the building committee for Lake City Lodge to meet with the Lakeshore Hospital and the representatives and try to resolve the issues that lay before us in a timely manner. So to me, from their letter, it sounds like maybe the membership's approved that whatever these two gentlemen say is
No.
fine.
Well, I say at this point, we gotta move forward. If
Let's move for, yeah, I'm
I
with you.
mean,
Let's move forward and let's
we're
bring
at
these
it.
two boys to the meeting on the phone. Or see if we can get them to come here and then we can go to them as well. But I'm
You-
very curious.
You want them here in February meeting?
I mean, we're not gonna have an appraisal done.
Yeah,
I'll check and call with the. call
yeah,
Dale with a
I think
timeframe.
it'd just be pertinent to just ask them, let them know, what our hands are gonna be tied. In my mind, sorry, I know I can't make a motion to vote, but in my mind, if we can't convey the funds that they want, and we can only convey up to a market value.
Mr. Chair, I
Yes, sir.
assume my motion did not have a second.
I'll second your motion. After clarification, I appreciate that. I second the motion.
So there's motion in a second,
I'd like to have a roll call vote, please.
okay?
Can we restate the motion?
Bottom line is I make a motion that we get an appraisal done ASAP as quick as possible so that we can take it to the Masons and show them what the fair market value as they. I'll put that in motion. The fair market value of lot 111, period.
Okay, thank you.
And it was seconded by Mr. Beal.
Do
Right.
you second the restated? Okay, just want to make sure I'm clear on that. And yes, we would do a roll call vote. So
Yeah,
motion and second on the floor. Ms. Chancey is against.
yes.
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 You guys have it. Motion's approved, passed.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I may, in keeping with the motion, which was to expedite, Todd, do we have to have a full appraisal or will a limited summary appraisal report do?
I'll ask Chase what.
Obviously, if it's a limited summary appraisal report, we can expedite it a little bit by
Yeah.
doing that. And then, of course, my second request would be for the trustees to consider waiving their purchasing policy to give Todd the most flexibility in expediting the appraisal.
We would need a motion for that.
You'll need a motion in a second, but the request would be to waive your purchasing policy to allow Todd to expedite the appraisal.
I'd make a motion to.
I'll second.
And to waive his fee. I mean, I'm sorry.
Well, you parked out back. Tire poker here.
I know I have to
Pressure.
do that, but there's a, I just want to make sure, there's a motion to, yeah,
Waive
release,
the-
waive our purchasing policy for Mr. Cannon to approach, for an appraisal. Motion by Mr. Beal, second by Ms. Chancey. I'm gonna say all those in favor.
Aye.
Aye.
Let's have it, motion passes.
And Todd, you're going to check to see the style of appraisal?
Check with Chase, hopefully tomorrow.
Chase is contracted with Lakeshore Authority. He's the only general appraiser.
He's,
I think he's
He's-
one of the only generals left that's doing
Yeah.
this in this area.
all right, I'll move forward.
I mean, we could solicit others, but I don't think there's no.
Hey, well, I'm just here.
Okay. Let's see, do we have any unfinished business that anyone's aware of? Any board member comments in closing?
I have a problem. I now have a puppy that is not used to being left alone. She belonged to a retired trooper named Roy Adderholt. I don't know if any of you knew him. And she's very much attached to the fact that she should travel with us. So if Joe is not gonna be home, she's gonna be out in my truck unless you all would agree to let me bring her in.
Bring her in, put it in Dale's office.
I'd recommend Dale's office.
Well, it's fine. I just happen to know this dog. This is Lucy,
Sally,
Sally.
Yeah.
This was,
Just a service dog?
no.
Oh.
not
Well,
yet.
I know how that process
but
works.
What kind of dog?
She's a little Jack Russell. And she's blind in one eye.
Roy Adderholt's dog.
So, all right,
I think.
there, we were still on board member comments.
Yeah, I'd like to have some more special meetings scheduled so we can continue this progress that we're making. Mr. Powell, I'm sorry I mentioned your name earlier.
Honestly, I appreciate it in the context that you made.
I'm good, Mr. Beal.
Just want to apologize to the taxpayers for this process taking as long as it is.
Amen.
Amen.
Yeah.
Anything?
Good, sir.
All right, let's adjourn. Appreciate it.